Title: At Thanksgiving dinner, my uncle said, "You don't deserve a seat at this. My name is Mason, and I'm 32 years old. I don't really talk to my family much these days. Not because I don't care, but because every time I've tried, it ends with them making me feel like the villain in a movie I didn't even audition for. Growing up, I was the fixer, the golden kid, the one they called when the car broke down, or the rent was late, or someone needed help moving an entire apartment on 2 days' notice. But that all changed 5 years ago. After Dad passed, I distanced myself, not from grief, though that hit hard, but from what came after, the inheritance war. It tore through us like a fire. My mom and her brother, Uncle Ray, tried to manipulate everything Dad left behind. They figured I'd roll over like always. I didn't, and ever since I've been the black sheep. I still don't know why I agreed to come back for Thanksgiving this year. Maybe part of me hoped something had changed. Maybe I was lonely, or maybe I just wanted to see for myself if the bridges I left burning were really just piles of ash now. Mom called me 2 weeks before, said it was going to be a real family gathering this time, her words. She emphasized that a few times, almost like it was a warning. I should have listened. I hesitated but said yes, told her I'd bring dessert. I picked up a pecan pie from that bakery on 8th Avenue they all used to rave about. Spent too much money on it, honestly, but I figured if I was going to walk into the lion's den, I might as well show up with something sweet. The moment I walked into my childhood home, I felt it, that thick tension in the air, like I had stepped into a play and everyone had memorized the script except me. My cousin Lily gave me a side hug. That was about the warmest welcome I got. My mom barely looked up from the kitchen. Uncle Ray was already seated at the head of the table like he owned the place. He greeted me with a smug grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, look what the wind dragged in, a classic Ray." I didn't even respond, just set the pie down and took off my coat. Dinner started tense. No one made space for me at the main table, even though there were still 2 empty seats. I hovered awkwardly, pretending to check my phone until one, think it was my younger cousin, finally brought over a folding chair from the garage. I sat at the very corner of the table, barely able to reach the mashed potatoes. Every few minutes I caught whispers, not even subtle ones, about people who think they're too good for family and how some people just disappear until there's food on the table. I chewed slowly, trying to ignore it, reminding myself I'd survived worse. But then Uncle Ray cleared his throat, holding his wine glass like a royal scepter. "You know," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "not everyone here deserves a seat at this table." The room went still, except for the clink of someone's fork hitting their plate. I glanced up. He was looking directly at me. Some people only come around when they think there's something in it for them. I didn't say anything. I just kept eating. It wasn't worth it. I knew what this was, a trap. But my mom chuckled softly. That's what stung. Real family doesn't abandon us when we need them. She added, her eyes on the turkey like she couldn't even look at me. It was like the air got knocked out of my lungs. I sat there for a beat, trying to stay calm. I looked around the table at the people I used to share birthdays and holidays with, and all I saw were people who had already decided I didn't belong. I stood up slowly, picked up my coat. No one tried to stop me. In fact, a few seemed relieved. I didn't say a word, just smiled, nodded once, and walked out the front door. The cold air outside was a slap in the face, but honestly, it felt better than anything inside that house. I sat in my car for a long time, just breathing, watching the lights in the windows flicker as the dinner continued without me, and then I started thinking, not about the insults or the silence, but about the safe. Dad's old safe, the one hidden behind the painting in the study, the one they never figured out how to open after he passed, the one they assumed was just filled with meaningless papers. That safe used to be mine. I helped Dad install it when I was a teenager. I knew the code. I hadn't touched it since the funeral out of respect. But tonight, something shifted. I wasn't angry, not exactly. I just felt done. Done being the punching bag. Done being the afterthought. Done watching people twist memories into weapons. And most of all, done letting them profit off the parts of Dad they didn't even try to understand. I drove around for a bit, grabbed a coffee, let the night settle. Then, maybe an hour later, I turned the car around. The house was still buzzing when I got back. I parked down the street, slipped in through the back fence like I used to as a kid. The garage was locked, but I still remembered the loose panel by the side entrance. It took less than 5 minutes to get inside. The study was empty. Voices floated in from the dining room. Laughter, clinking glasses. Someone, maybe Lily, was playing piano badly. I moved quietly, carefully. My hands didn't shake when I lifted the painting off the wall. The code clicked on the first try, and when I opened that safe, I didn't find just papers. There was money, bonds, a few small boxes, Dad's old pocket watch, the deed to the lake house, copies of the trust, a few letters addressed to me, unopened. I took it all, not in a rush, not in a panic. Just with quiet, deliberate motion, like I was finally picking up what had always been mine. When I left, I locked the door behind me. Nobody saw me. Nobody knew. By the time they sat down for dessert, I was already halfway across town. And the safe they thought no one could open, it was empty. I didn't go home right away. I ended up at this little overlook outside the city, where you can see all the lights glittering below. I parked, turned off the engine, and just sat there with the boxes in the passenger seat beside me. The letter on top had my name written in Dad's handwriting. I didn't open it immediately. I don't know why. Maybe I was scared of what it might say. Maybe I was still holding on to that last thread of childhood hope, the kind that says, if I read this, something in me will change. But I did open it eventually. It was short, only a few lines. Mason, if you're reading this, it means you came back. I never doubted you would. You were always the only one who paid attention, the only one who saw people as they were, not as they pretended to be. Everything in this safe belongs to you. I put it here because I knew the others would fight over what they could see, but I trust you to know what to do with what matters. Dad, that was the first time I cried that night. I sat with the letter in my lap, watching my breath fog up the windshield. And for once, the tears weren't because of what my family did. They were for what my dad still somehow managed to do, even years after he was gone. I didn't hear from anyone until the next morning. It started with a text from my cousin Lily. Hey, were you at the house last night? Then from my mom, Mason, call me now. And finally, Uncle Ray, always the charmer, what did you do? I ignored them all. Around noon, Lily tried calling. I let it ring. She texted again after the safe was emptied. There was stuff in there we didn't even know about. They're freaking out. That made me laugh. They didn't know about it, sure, because they never bothered to ask. They just waited for the pieces to fall into their laps. That's all they ever did. By 3:00 p.m., I got another call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up, but something made me curious. Hello, I answered cautiously. Mason, it was my mom's voice, but it didn't sound angry, just tired. Please, we need to talk. I don't think we do. I said flatly, there are things you took, things that were mine. I cut in. Or do you want to read the letter out loud together? There was silence on the other end. Then she sighed. Mason, your uncle is talking about lawyers. I'm sure he is. Tell him I kept a copy of the will too. It's in the box. Why would you do this? She asked. Not yelling, not crying, just this empty question like she still didn't get it, and that's when something in me cracked, but not the way she expected. I didn't yell back. I didn't argue. I just said what I should have said years ago because I'm done being the quiet one. The fixer, the invisible backbone of this family, Dad knew it. You didn't. That's not on me. You're being cruel. She whispered. I almost laughed again. No. I was cruel when I let you treat me like a stranger in my own home and said nothing. Last night, that was clarity. I hung up, and for the next week it was chaos on their end. I didn't even need to check in to know. My cousins started posting cryptic quotes on Instagram about betrayal and fake people. Uncle Ray apparently tried hiring a locksmith to break into the safe again, just to see if I had really taken everything. My mom sent me a long email, 3 paragraphs of guilt, followed by one line that made me pause. Come home and we can talk. Your room is still here. I didn't reply. Instead, I called the lawyer Dad had worked with, the one whose business card was tucked inside one of the folders from the safe. We set up a meeting. I brought the trust papers, the deed, the letters, everything. He remembered me, said Dad had mentioned me often, and always with pride. We went through the documents together. Legally, it was airtight. The safe was Dad's. Its contents were not listed in the general will. They were set aside as part of a private trust, with one beneficiary, me. Everything I took, everything I now owned, it was mine, fully and legally. That included the lake house, and that's when the idea started forming in my head. It was subtle at first, just a passing thought, like a whisper, but the more I sat with it, the more I realized I wasn't done, not yet. They tried to cut me out of the family for walking away. Now they wanted me back because I had something they needed. But what they didn't understand, what they never understood, was that I didn't want back in. I wanted them to know exactly what they lost. So I made a plan. The lake house had been sitting empty for years. Mom and Uncle Ray used to joke that it was too far out of the way and not worth the upkeep. But Dad and I used to spend summers there fixing it up, making plans. He'd once told me half seriously that it would make a perfect retirement spot or getaway. Now I had other plans for it. I called in some favors, hired a contractor, a landscaping team, even a drone photographer. I put the lake house on a luxury short-term rental platform with a fully redone listing and photos. Within 2 weeks, it was booked solid for the next 6 months, high season, and then, once the income started rolling in, I sent one thing to my family's group chat, just a screenshot. It showed the first month's earnings, $18,392. No caption, no message, just numbers. They didn't reply right away, but I saw the read receipts. One by one, first Lily, then Mom, then Ray. That was 3 days ago. I haven't heard a word since, but I know the silence won't last. And when the next message finally comes, I'll be ready. The silence from the group chat stretched longer than I expected. A full day passed, then another. I knew them well enough to understand what that meant. Panic behind closed doors, hushed phone calls, probably a family meeting without me. Like old times, they were scrambling, trying to figure out what to do now that I wasn't just quietly removed from the picture, but thriving outside of it. I spent those days in peace, first time in a long while. I drove up to the lake house myself, just to see it before the renters moved in, pulled into the driveway and stared at the porch Dad and I rebuilt together, plank by plank. The railing I helped him install was still solid. The pine tree we planted in the backyard had grown taller than the roof. Inside, everything was fresh, new floors, updated appliances, a working fireplace. But the soul of it was still there. The memories clung to the walls like invisible photographs. I stood in the living room for a while, remembering Dad's laugh, the way he used to sit by the window with coffee in hand, looking out at the water like it held answers. It felt right, like I'd finally reclaimed something no one else even saw the value in. That night, while sipping tea on the deck, I got a text from Lily. You really rented it out, like, fully? I stared at the message, debated whether to reply. Eventually, I just sent back, yep, first booking already paid, rest are scheduled through spring. She replied within a minute. Mom's losing it, Ray too. They said they didn't know about the deed, that you manipulated something, but I saw the papers. It's all yours, right? That caught me off guard. Lily was never really against me, just silent. Passive, a bystander, I hesitated, then replied, "It's mine. Dad left it to me. He trusted me to take care of it." She didn't reply after that. Not right away. The next evening, I was halfway through dinner when the doorbell rang. I live in a small place just outside the city, and no one drops by unannounced, so my stomach immediately sank. I checked the peephole. It was my mom, hair done up, coat neatly pressed, eyes sharp as ever. I opened the door slowly. "Didn't expect you. I figured you wouldn't answer my calls," she said. She walked in like she still owned the place, didn't wait for an invitation. Typical. She glanced around with that expression she always wore, judgment dressed as concern. "You're living here." "Yes," I said, shutting the door behind her. "I like it. You could have come home," she muttered, touching the edge of my bookshelf. "We had a place for you." I crossed my arms. "You mean at the corner of the table with the folding chair?" She turned, her face tightened. "That wasn't supposed to be about you." "Then who was it about?" I asked quietly, because it sure felt like a message. There was a long pause. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then sat on the edge of the couch like it pained her. "Your uncle says you emptied the safe, took things that belonged to the family." I stayed silent. "Your father wouldn't have wanted this kind of division," she added. "That's rich, Mom. He literally wrote me a letter, said it all belonged to me." She looked away. "He always favored you. He trusted me." I corrected, "And maybe he saw what I refused to see back then." She flinched at that, then sighed. "You don't understand how hard it's been keeping the family together. Ray's finances aren't great, and that's not my problem anymore." I said, cutting her off. "You made that clear over and over." Her voice sharpened. "You're being cruel again, Mason." I leaned against the wall. "No, I'm being honest. There's a difference." Another pause. Her eyes darted around the room like she was looking for something, maybe an angle. Maybe a weakness. Finally, she pulled out a small envelope from her purse. "This was in the bottom drawer of your dad's old desk. I found it after you left. It's addressed to you." My breath caught. She handed it to me. I took it slowly, cautiously, like it might vanish if I wasn't careful. She stood, straightened her coat. "Read it. Maybe then you'll understand." And with that, she walked out, shutting the door behind her without another word. I stood in silence for a long time. Then I sat at my desk and opened the envelope. It was another letter, this one shorter than the first, written in a different tone, a bit firmer, more direct. "Mason, if this letter finds you after all the noise, know this: you don't owe anyone forgiveness unless they've earned it. Protect what matters. Don't let guilt wear your spine down if you feel alone." Story continues. "Remember, I trusted you with the truth. That house is more than timber and nails. It's your foundation now. Build from it. Proud of you always. Dad." I sat there in the quiet for a long time, letter in hand, eyes stinging, and for the first time in years I felt grounded. Not angry, not lost, just clear. But that clarity didn't last long, because the very next morning I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. It was Uncle Ray. His voice was calm, too calm. "Hey Mason, we need to talk. There's something about your dad's trust we didn't know, something I think you'll want to see. Let's not make this ugly. Give me a call." And just like that, the game had changed. I didn't call Uncle Ray back, not right away. His message felt too rehearsed, too polished, like he practiced it in front of the mirror until he found the exact tone between concern and veiled threat. I listened to it twice, then I forwarded it to my lawyer. I wasn't playing this game blind, not anymore. I spent that afternoon at a nearby cafe, going over everything in my head, the safe, the trust. The lake house, the letter, Ray's voice kept echoing. We need to talk. Let's not make this ugly. That last part stuck with me. Let's not make this ugly, like we were still playing nice, like it hadn't been ugly for years. When I finally left the cafe, I had 3 missed calls, 2 from Ray, 1 from Lily. The message from Lily was short. They're talking about suing. Ray says there's a clause in the trust that might help them. I texted her back. There isn't. I checked. He says your dad altered the documents a year before he passed away. There's another version. He says it names the family. Another version. I didn't like the sound of that. I called my lawyer again. We arranged to meet first thing in the morning. Then I drove back to the lake house, not because I was scared, but because if they were planning something, I wanted to make sure my place was locked down literally. It was a quiet drive, and the house looked just like I'd left it, glowing softly in the golden light. The air smelled like pine and distant rain. I stepped inside and walked through every room, checking the locks, the windows, the basement door. Everything was fine until I reached the study. On the floor near the fireplace was a boot print, fresh, tracked in from outside, but the strange thing, it wasn't mine, and I hadn't had guests, no contractor appointments. The cleaners had finished 2 days ago. I checked the doors again. Nothing was broken, but someone had been inside. I called a locksmith that night, told him I needed every lock replaced, including the sliding glass doors, the garage, and the shed out back. I wasn't taking chances, not now. The next morning, my lawyer, Greg, sat across from me in his office, reading the voicemail transcript Ray had left. When he finished, he looked up with a frown. They're bluffing. You sure? I'm certain, he said. We filed the updated trust with the county clerk. There's no earlier version that holds weight. If there was a revision, your father would have had to sign it, notarize it, and register it. No such document exists. I exhaled. So Ray's just fishing. Greg leaned back, trying to rattle you. If they thought you'd back down, maybe they hoped fear would do the trick. It didn't. That weekend, I hosted my first guests at the lake house, a retired couple from New York. They messaged me after check-in, saying the place was like something out of a movie. I thanked them, watched their review come in a few days later, 5 stars. My inbox lit up with more booking requests. I forwarded the earnings update to the family group chat. Another screenshot, $42, 186. No caption, just silence, until the doorbell rang. This time it wasn't my mom. It was Ray. He stood on my front step like a man who hadn't been told no in years. Dressed sharp, leather briefcase in hand, like this was a negotiation. Mind if I come in? He asked. I didn't answer, just stared at him. He sighed. Look, I know things have been tense, but we're family. There's no need for lawyers and hostility. Then why are you here with a briefcase? His lips twitched. To be honest, I want to propose a compromise. I raised an eyebrow. He continued, we were thinking, the lake house brings in a lot of income. It's a family asset. Mason, you don't have to carry the burden alone. We could share it, split it 3 ways, or even 4. I stared at him, stunned. You think you deserve a share of this? He didn't blink. Your father always said family comes first. He wouldn't want this division. I laughed once, bitter. He trusted me. You all laughed at that, mocked me at the table, called me a stranger, and now that it's profitable, suddenly I'm family again. You're being emotional. He snapped. This is about what's right. No, I said. This is about what's profitable. His expression hardened. I'm giving you an option here, a fair one. You're young. Managing this on your own is risky. We can help. You mean take a cut? He didn't deny it. I stepped outside, forcing him back a step. Ray, I'm going to say this once. You and Mom and everyone else made it clear I wasn't part of your circle anymore. You threw me out without a word, and now you want in. We can make this messy, Mason, he said quietly. "We can drag this out in court. You may win, but it'll cost you." I smiled, "Then let's dance." And I closed the door in his face. 2 weeks later, I got a formal letter from his attorney, a petition to freeze the lake house's earnings until ownership could be clarified. My lawyer responded within the hour, attaching the trust documents, registration proofs, letters from my father, and the notarized beneficiary list. Their petition was rejected in 3 days, but it didn't stop there. They tried going after me in other ways, claimed I had taken sentimental family heirlooms from the safe, tried painting me as manipulative. Lily posted a vague status about some people stealing memories to make money. I ignored it because I was already 3 steps ahead. The truth was, I had everything documented, every renovation invoice, every transfer, every message, and the moment I saw them trying to smear me in the court of public opinion, I responded, not with insults, but with facts. I published a blog post on a private family history page we all used growing up, shared photos of the lake house, old pictures of Dad and me building it, scans of his handwritten letters, a full accounting of what I took from the safe, why I took it, and the legal proof backing me. Then I ended the post with one sentence: "I didn't take anything that wasn't already mine. I just stopped letting you pretend it was yours." Within days, the narrative flipped. Extended relatives, the ones who were once silent, started messaging me privately. Aunts and cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Some apologized, some congratulated me. A few even booked weekends at the lake house. Ray and my mom stopped responding. The group chat went dark, and then, one Sunday morning, I got a final letter in the mail. It was from my mother, handwritten, short, Mason. I don't know if I did the right thing. Maybe I let Ray speak too much for me. Maybe I let old habits win. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say, "You were always the one who stayed true to Dad. He would have been proud, Mom." I didn't cry, but I did sit with that letter for a long time. Later that year, the lake house won a small feature in a travel magazine. I framed the article, hung it in the hallway right next to Dad's photo, the one where we're both standing on the porch, tools in hand, sawdust on our jeans. I get bookings year-round now, and sometimes I go up myself on quiet weekends. I light the fireplace, sip coffee on the deck, and read his letters again, and every time I do, I remember the night I walked out of that house. The night they said I didn't deserve a seat at the table. They were right. I didn't. I deserve my own table, and now I have one, with the best view on the lake.